Evening, everybody. Today, we are going to present our case study problem at Boeing Aerospace long-term shareholder outlook. My name is Sumesh Tupiliparambasugu. Along with me, Varshini Yadav Surubili Manjunatha, Paul Ize Ugwu, and Muhammad Umar Omer. Our group number 129, tutorial number 13, and module number 7BUS 2176 0509 2024. Tutor name Muhammad Ali. Today, for this update for shareholders, this is entitled Problems at Boeing Aerospace Long Term Shareholder Outlook. We have recently gone through Boeing's issues and where it is today in 2025. Our goal is to offer an objective, fact based evaluation of the company's path, connecting what's wrong and where value could be still in the future. Introduction to Boeing. Boeing is not just a corporation, it's a pillar of American industrial might with more than 77 billion US dollar in sales. It touches commercial defense and space aviation, but Boeing only delivered 528 airplanes in 2024, which is far short of Airbus. Currently, it lags its nearest competitor in backlog, innovation, and custom confidence. Boeing's defense presence remains robust, but its commercial reputation is badly made. Aims and objectives and target audience. Today we are trying to learn about the extent of Boeing crisis and what it holds for shareholders. We will examine how Boeing, a duopoly leader, descended into long-term chaos from strategic and governance failures to declining market shares. Crucially, we will try to gain insight into recovery strategies and place Boeing action in context with global competitors such as Airbus. Regrettably, a crisis like Boeing's has wide-reaching trickle-down consequences, so we must consider not only you, the shareholders, but regulators like the FAA and EASA, big institutional investors like BlackRock and Vanguard, and employees whose spirit directly influence production. OEMs and airlines, our ultimate customers, are watching Boeing closely as well. Problem statement, which lead us to the nub of today's topic. How did a company the size and structure of Boeing find itself mired in regulatory scandal, safety shortcomings, and investor skepticism? The 737 MAX crashes were the turning point, but thereafter there were quality failures, court revelations, and strategic mismatches that have added to the debacle. Boeing's stock prices is 60% lower since 2019, and relationship and fines have exceeded 25 billion US dollars. Scope of this crisis. The issue extends much deeper than individual incidents, from the catastrophic 737 MAX crashes to grounding entire fleets and recent Spirit Aero system problems. Boeing is based by systemic weaknesses. 4.7 billion US dollars in production expenses in 2024 alone was due to issues of quality, and more than 80 deliveries were slipped in quarter four. Shareholder equity is now pegged to a highly volatile model of production. I'm inviting my friend Varshini Yadav Sulibilla Manjunatha to present the next slide.
Thank you, Sumesh. Uh, the next, I'm gonna present a timeline of key failures. This slide tracks the manner in which the Boeing crisis transcripted. It started with the deadly crashes in 2018 and 2019, followed by legal consequences in 2021 from 22 to 2024, delivering a substantial and whistleblower complication stacks up. The CEO David Colhan stepped down in the 2024, and the FFA ramped up with the um, monitoring after a further MAX incident. This timeline illustrates a trade, not failures, but systematic neglects. The next slide is duopoly market context. So here, Boeing and Airbus are a global duopoly. Boeing is falling behind in a hurry. Airbus delivered a 735 planes last year to 528 for a Boeing. The A321 Neo is already outselling the 737 MAX, and the further position of the Air India mega deal have flowed to the Airbus. With an order of book of more than 8,600 aeroplane, the Airbus is a stable partner to consider this competitive advantageous puts the Boeing market shares and the shareholder returns directly at the risk. The next slide is the shareholders' financial impact. From the shareholders' perspective, the damage is severe. Boeing shares price dropped from $440 in 2019 to around $178 in July 2025. Market cap losses total over $90 billion. Worse still, dividends have not resumed since 2020. And first, the quarter 2025 reported another $1.2 billion in net losses. The key customers lay Rayar and Emirates and demanding the graduates broadly indicates how trust issues are now affecting the revenues. The next slide is governance and management failures. The most analytics think that Boeing corporate culture changed with its major with the Miss McDonnell Douglases. The engineering was dominated by the finance. There has not a big technical leadership in the board of directors, and there has been no one held accountable for the management. Boeing still did not take a responsibility even after the crashes. ISS and the Grasslews published a report in 2024 calling for the governance reform. Shareholders expect consistency between the engineering and the leadership priorities now. We'll go to the next slide. The supply chain description. Boeing global supply base, once a source of strength, is now a weakness. It's a major fuel con- and Spirit Aerosystem has been the crash of many delays. COVID only added to the weaknesses with a part and manpower shortages. The FAA 2024 audit identified the supplier on non-confidentially, and the Boeing considered that its a ecosystem is no longer stable. The result is a late deliveries, higher cost, and agitated customers. Now I gonna call my friend Paul to continue the slides.
All right, thank you, Vashal. I will start from quality control lapses. Quality control is where Boeing's reputation is suffering the most. Loose boot knots and foreign object debris in new plane to 2024 Alaska airline door plug failure. Persistent problem indicates a failed QA system. Over 1,200 planes have been reported after delivering in 2023. FA audit last year found Boeing failed three of its most critical QA tests. Internal whistleblowers said they were bullied into overlooking defects. This is not a confidence building situation. Next slide. Safety culture breakdown. Since the last year decade, Boeing is drifted away from the engineering route to a profit over all and reactionary mindset. The most compelling evidence is linked to the new Time 2024 Internal Employee survey in which early 2020, 70% of its engineers attested that safety no longer remains the top priority in the company. This is not perception. This is attested by Senate whistleblower, FA investigation, and actual airline grievances. Lack of automation, chief safety officer, the internal mechanism of the company have consistently been unable to recognize and mitigate quality problems. The failure to provide good documentation and technical openness following recertification of the 737 MAX left airline and pilots at risk of uncertainty and vulnerability. Unfolding is not just a system breakdown, but also a value breakdown, one that also endangers human life as well as investor confidence in the long term. The next slide, frameworks of strategic analysis. To understand Boeing current crisis and its future direction, we are applied three strategic lenses. SWOT analysis indicate that although Boeing's retain great strengths, such as its heritage brand and defense connection, these are increasingly countered by desperate internal weaknesses, primarily in quality control and coordination. Airbus threats and geopolitical curiosity increase in intensity even as an opportunity arises in new area frontiers such as hydrogen and city mobility. Our pastel charts wider environment. Politically, the firm is subject to tight congregational and regulatory scrutiny. Economical, it's plagued by supply chain expense and compliance fines. Socially, Boeing is in the middle of crisis of customer and flying public trust. Last, using Mark's 7S approach, we observe profound misalignment in Boeing's internal system. Each system and structure are antiquated. Leadership style is fragmented, and each employee needs genuine realignment along the lines of strategy, structure, and values. The next slide, strategic solution moving forward. Boeing should fix on superficial solution in an effort to rebuild trust, placement of a chief safety officer who is independent at a board level will guarantee primacy of safety over speed or cost. The culture change is essential immunity to whistleblowing and authorization of engineers to take a stand without fear. Innovation should become a strong point once again. Accelerating a new mid-market aircraft will make Boeing hydrogen ready to sustain its future growth. Regulatory-wise, FAA EAS combined task force with harmonization of safety oversight and a global trust is possible. Finally, digital technologies such as predictive analysis and digital twin model need to transform the quality assurance of Boeing so that the errors that can and will be made are stopped before can get to out of control. Strategy that Boeing should implement between 2025 and 2028 focus on assuring engineering excellence rather than financial ones. I will now hand over to my friend Mohammed Umar to continue from the next slide.
Umar, you are mute.
The next slide is about the Boeing's promises of crisis recovery 2024 to 25. Boeing has demonstrated visible efforts are at crisis recovery, but visibility and effectiveness are not the same thing. Over 20 revised QA protocols were introduced to FFA and EASA during 2024 alone, aimed specifically at the troubled 737 MAX and 787 production lines. In June 2025, Boeing promised to store more than 3,500 engineers some of whom had been laid off during previous rounds of layoffs. The creation of an independent safety board and quality inspection that put in plants are signals of recognition of the crisis. But outcomes are sporadic. Six plants passed internal test of compliance, controls by suppliers remain loose. Communications with stakeholders are better, but one way. Transparency through better is still not deep. The next slide is about the strategic recommendations. Our recovery strategy for Boeing has two main timelines: short term stabilization and long term transformation. In short term, stability of operation has take first place. Independent audits recalling the best engineers and the adversarial interactions with the regulators such as the FFA and EASA can stop reputational and legal damage in its tracks. In the long term, Boeing requires culture transformation and research and development rebirth. There must not be an inside culture of safety as a slogan. It must be a policy spending sustainable technologies such as hydrogen power and electric vertical takeoff with fuel its competitive advantage. The next slide is about the shareholder outlook. Boeing's future is halves of two short short-term risk, long-term recovery. 2025 2025 to 26 will remain difficult. Shareholder returns might remain flat and legal regulatory expenses may weigh on margins, and there may be a risk of credit downgrades. Boeing now has an S&P BBB plus rating. By 2027 to 28, the turnover can start, particularly if Asian and Middle Eastern civil aviation turn around. Defense bookings, particularly for the MQ-25 unnamed drone and P-8A spy planes, provide stability. The next slide is about the conclusion. The cause of current crisis at Boeing is not only a bunch of defective aircraft, it is an endemic failure of leadership, culture, governance. Nevertheless, things are not quite undissented. They are not only legacy companies that have managed to rise back after a colossal collapse of integrity. Toyota, GE are the other companies to have passed through the same rigmarole. Boeing is yet to run out of the ingredients of an impressive rebound, a global portfolio of aerial talents, awesome defense collection, and unsurpassed technical competence. The message to the shareholders is follows keep the company accountable, stay informed, and promote the reforms that bring about actual changes. Listening to its engineers rather than quarterly reports, however, this crisis can remain only the start of next great rise. The next slide is about the references. All the references have been taken from the peer-reviewed article and latest data. So if you have any question, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, brother, is it